Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nicole. I'm an experienced seamstress of 20 plus years, with the last 9 years being spent focusing on African wax print cottons and laces. So today, for part 3 of my So September series, African wax prints and fall fashions, we are going to discuss more detailed and advanced detailed and advanced techniques for incorporating African wax prints into your fall fashion, specifically focusing on quilting. So we're going to talk about how to design a quilt, how to calculate how many blocks that you might need, how to do your pattern placement. So if that's something that interests you, please keep watching. So welcome back, or welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about quilting, which is a form of color blocking that you can incorporate into your fall at home, snuggling by the fire, watching your favorite show, whatever kind of snuggling you like to do, cozy fall and winter at home wardrobe. So I have 2 examples of quilts I've made. I also created this quilt template to help you to be able to sketch out and create your own patterns and place the patterns, and I'm going to show you how I arrange the pattern for this quilt. And I'm even going to put in here showing you how I cutting out the blocks for this quilt. These blocks are going to be 4.5 by 8.5. How to figure out how many blocks you need for the size quilt you want. This quilt template you can get in my Etsy shop. I've created has the basic measurements from baby quilts to king size quilts to help you to be more accurate in calculating the types of quilts you want to make. So I have in the template an example of a brick quilt template and then just like a regular square quilt template. So let me show you the examples. I like the brick quilt template because I like the design that all the blocks don't just directly line up with each other. So this is an example of one that's patchwork, but it also has anchoring prints. So this is the one I showed you on my previous video. That's hubby and I's favorite quilt. Let me turn it. This way it's a V. But if you can see, in this quilt, these purple pieces make a design here, and they make a design here, and then up here on the end I also have the design here. So this is what we're going to come up with as we're working on this quilt with these pattern pieces, is how to create, if you wanted to do something unique with the same print or a solid color design in it, or if you just want to choose random pieces and just make a regular patchwork quilt. And this is an example of a smaller size quilt, so it's a smaller throw, but I chose with this design to do it the same print along the diagonal. So same print, and then you can follow it diagonal, and then at a certain point, this point it starts repeating. So this is another example of how you can design a patchwork quilt. So mainly for this, you're going to need your quilt square rulers. See, I already pulled it out. This is the one you will need because 8.5 by 4.5 fits within the bounds of this. And then even in my template that I'm going to link in the description, it gives you an example of how to do 5-inch squares to create a baby quilt and how you would calculate that. So if that's something that you think would help you, it will help you. I love it and interest you, then go and check out that pattern in my Etsy shop. So now let's talk about how you can create your own pattern for this particular quilt. This one, the perfect throw that hubby and I love. So for this quilt, you'll need, we're gonna do 4 by 8 blocks, right? And so you're gonna need 10 one way and 12 the other way. So 10 times 12, that's 120. So you need about 120 blocks total. So let me switch so I can show you close up with how you can design your quilt, how you can do the layout of your pieces before you start sewing it together. Okay, so here is the brick quilt template that you can get in my Etsy shop, and I've linked it in the bio. I've linked it at the top of the video. So for this quilt that I've already made, I already know that I want it to be 12 this way, right? 12 times 4, because that's what the finished measurements on the bricks are going to be, is 48. So that's how wide I want it to be. And then this way, I want it to be 10 this way. So it's going to be a 48 by 80. 80 is going to be the long way for the quilt. And also I'm going to do, because you'll see in the template, we need to add seam allowance for quilts. We do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So 1/4 inch on each side is a 1/2 inch. So then we're going to go, our blocks are going to be 4.5 by 8.5. But you see these half blocks that you come across where you're doing the brick lay pattern, then we're gonna have it be, those need to be 4.5 by 4.5, right? To be able to yield a 4-inch around block. Just follow the math. So all these little half ones that you come to, that's what those will be. Okay, so starting here, I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's where this one stops. And for this down, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so this quilt is gonna be this big. So for this design, we go into, and then this is the anchor color. So 1, 2, 3. And then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the anchor color. And then we have 2 on the end that are not. And then, so we keep doing that for this one. So the anchor color goes and this one goes this way. And then this is where we're just marking the anchor colors. And it might be best to do with a pencil if you're not so confident in this yet. So So you can like erase as you're creating your design, but I'm just showing you a design I've already created. All right, and then within this design, so that's how you create a design. And that's the design for the purple quilt that I showed you. So you know that 12 times 10 is 120. So that's how many blocks you'll need total for this 4.5 by 8.5 brick lay pattern that I made. You can make your blocks bigger, you can make them smaller. This is the size I chose to do. And so you know that you can count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5, right? So that's 10 and 2 halves. So you're gonna need, if you count four of these, and this is just for the anchor pieces. Like I told you, we're just talking about if we want it to be the same print for this design through the quilt, and then the other ones just be random, right? So we're calculating this purple. So far we need 4 half pieces. We counted 10 whole pieces. So we're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So we need 28 so that pieces of the anchor color. We're gonna put A there. So then all you gotta do is subtract 28. So out of these 120 pieces, right? Let's go back. We can count how many half pieces that we need from this pattern. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 6 on each side. So that'll be 12. So actually you'll need, from this 20, you will need 108 varying patchwork pieces, and then you'll need 12 half pieces. So total. So we already know we need 4 of the anchor color. So 12 minus 4, that means for the patchwork, you just need to randomly select 8 pieces. And then for this, 108 minus 28 is 80. So you need to choose 80 more pieces of various fabrics. So it's nice to have at least 10 different prints. I think I chose 11 or 12, and I'll show you the prints that I chose for the quilt that I'm making like this one for this video. And so picking 8 to 10 pieces in each of those piles, and then knowing that for the anchor color, you're gonna need 28 pieces that are 4.5 by 8, and you're gonna need 4 pieces that are 4.5 by 4.5. And then for this, you're gonna need 80 pieces that are 8.5 by 4.5, and 8 pieces of those randomly 4.5 by 4.5. And I'll show you how I cut those out so you can visualize it. And so this is a good way to make good use of your scrap fabrics, not to just throw it away, especially pieces that are too small to maybe make into another garment, and you want to make gifts for someone. You just want to make cool blankets for your home. You might want to get into the business of making, you know, these blankets and posting them in your Etsy shop. So this is just a way you can make a pattern. Now for the other quilt that I showed you, so this is one pattern. We're going to use this other side to make another pattern. Real quick, just to show you how you can calculate it. You know, let's just stick to this one. Okay, let's just stick to this one. And then how about I challenge you to create your own pattern using this template, and to share, tag me if you share the pattern that you came up in with for your quilt, counting the pieces and then the resulting quilt. All right, and put any questions in the comments. So now that we've got our blocks kind of sketched out how we want this quilt to look, so you could either go this way or you can go this way depending on why you want to hold it, but this is the general kind of pattern that you're going to see in it. Then I'm going to show you how the quilt pieces I cut out. Let me show you first how you can cut out. This is a piece of scrap fabric in a solid color. Go do it this way. And so really quickly, it's a grid ruler. If you want a 4.5 by 8.5, you line that up with that 8.5 on that corner by that 4.5, as close as possible, like that. And then honestly, let's just do 8.5 all the way across. Let's do 4.5, I'm sorry, all the way across, so I can show you how to cut both pieces. This is not an erasable marking pen. I didn't grab one before I came over here. I need to refill. The one that's in my Amazon shop, this one, it comes with refillable ink. So once it runs out like this, I need to go grab another one and refill it. Let me show you how to do that now. So it comes with a bag full of refills like this. And so I can grab one out, insert it in here, take off that end, and boom, brand new pen. See, I'm glad I didn't switch it out when I came here, because now I could show you all how you can switch how easy it is to switch out your ink. And then boom, there you go. So that's 4.5 across, so we need 8.5 pieces. Let me square this off at the end. So that's at 8.5. That's why it's good that you can see through this ruler. And then the 4.5, and so I'm gonna mark here. And then if I wanted to do a piece that was 4.5, I could do the same here. And this will probably end up, just do what's best for the piece that you have. So it's not enough for me to do another 8.5 piece, but it is enough for me to do another 4.5 piece. And so I will just take my scissors and cut these out. And then I will have my quilt squares from this scrap piece of fabric, just as many as I can make. And then what you can also do, just a tip, if you're using width of fabric for this size of squares, you can get 8.5 by 4.5 squares from one width of fabric. You can get 5. Did I say that? You can get 5 8.5 by 4.5 pieces, or you can do 4 8.5 by 4.5 pieces, and then also have 2 4.5 by 4.5 pieces, depending on how you mark it out and cut it. Okay, so that's that. So now let me show you the pieces that I chose to cut out, and then how I laid them out for this pattern, and then we're going to talk about sewing them together to be able to create the quilt. So these are the prints that I selected for this quilt. I intentionally chose pieces that had black in them because I wanted that to be the main color, and it's perfectly fine to cut out more pieces than you need. You may have initially designed the quilt, and then once you start putting it together, you may want to add a couple of strips here or there. You may want more variety with how you mix and match up the patchworks, so please cut more than you need. You can always use the extra pieces for a different quilt. It's better to have too many pieces than too few for the quilt that you want. You can see I cut out way more of the 4.5 by 4.5 pieces than I needed. This piece right there is the one that I chose to be the anchor color. And here's me laying out the quilt pattern in the order that I want it to be in before I start sewing anything. This is so important so you can have an idea of how your finished quilt is going to look and make any adjustments. So here is a row that is in progress. So you can see I pinned it. I like to do my quilts in rows and then sew those rows together. So I've pinned it here. This is where I'm going to do my 1/4 inch seam allowance on all my pieces. Then once I do that, you can see here that I go in with my iron and I press them all going in the same direction. And then even once I do that and I sew 2 rows together, then I'm gonna press this also going in the same direction. That's important when you're quilting or laying it down, for it to lay flat and be easier to quilt, and for the finish to make sure everything's going in the same direction. So I'm going to sew all these pieces together, and then that'll be the quilt topper, and then I will show you how it looks once it's all sewn together. Y'all, thank you so much for joining me on this quilt along. I hope I've inspired you to start your own quilt. I look forward to seeing your comments. Don't forget to visit the description box, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.